In 1834, a Louisiana swamp gave up a monster. Workers dragged a chain of bones from the clay, 60 feet of them, as long as a bowling lane, and longer than any animal alive. The naturalist, Richard Harlan, saw a sea serpent. He called it Basilosaurus, king lizard. Every part of that name is wrong. It was not a king, not a lizard, not a reptile at all. What fooled Harlan was the shape, a long body wound around a low, stretched spine, the outline of a serpent, not a whale. Yet a whale is what it was. The first giant whale to rule the ocean. Nothing like the gentle filter feeders alive today. And the name was only the first mistake. The bigger one hid in its jaws for over a century. Scientists finally put a number on its bite. That number rewrote what this animal was. This codex opens on a simpler question. If it wasn't a lizard, what was it? The answer rewrote three things. What this animal actually was: a whale built to hunt, not to graze the sea. How it fed, not on fish, but on other whales. And a single number, worked out only in the last decade, that decides where its bite ranks against every hunter in the ocean. Basilosaurus was a monster hiding in plain sight, in bones we had held for nearly 2 centuries. For a long stretch of deep time, it was the most dangerous animal in the sea. Here is how we know. Before we go back, start with today. The whale you might watch surface off a boat, a humpback, a sperm whale, is a cousin of this animal. Whales are mammals. Their ancestors walked on land on 4 legs. Then, over roughly 10 million years, turned around and went back into the water. Basilosaurus sits near the end of that return, fully aquatic, but still carrying the toolkit of a land hunter. Teeth of different shapes, built for gripping and slicing, not for straining the sea. Rewind about 37 million years, to the late Eocene. The world is warmer than ours, close to a greenhouse, with little to no permanent polar ice. A warm sea, the Tethys, still runs across what is now Egypt. Part of that old seafloor is a desert today, Wadi al-Hitan, the Valley of Whales, where the ground is nearly paved with the skeletons of ancient whales, protected now as a World Heritage Site. Picture the animal itself, close to 18 meters, but built like an eel, not a submarine. A long, low, snaking body, wrapped around an unusually stretched spine. A small head for that length, set with cutting teeth. It even kept tiny hind legs, about the length of your forearm, on a body 60 feet from nose to tail. They were useless for walking. For a century, they were read as proof this was a clumsy, half-finished swimmer. Sharing its water was Dorudon, a smaller early whale, around 5 meters, rounder, gentler looking, moving in groups with its young. On paper, a cousin. In practice, as the bones would later show, prey. The picture most of us carry of a whale is a gentle giant that sieves the sea for tiny food. That picture is real, and it is recent. For millions of years before it, a whale was the thing other whales had to survive. The question is how far that went, and whether we have proof or only a good story. Return to Harlan and his bones. The mistake he made is easy to understand. Nothing alive had prepared anyone for this. A skeleton 60 feet long, snake-shaped, cut out of solid rock. The backbones were the giveaway and the trap at once. The vertebrae through its middle were stretched out, far longer than a whale's have any business being, and that is exactly what gave the body its serpent's line. In 1834, the natural answer was a reptile, a sea dragon. It took a sharper eye to fix it. Richard Owen, the anatomist who would later invent the word dinosaur, studied the skull and teeth 5 years on. The cheek teeth had 2 roots and matching serrated crowns for shearing, the way a mammals do. The ear bones were a mammal's. This was no lizard, it was a whale. Owen even tried to rename it Zoiglodon, Yolk-tooth. The new name never stuck. The monster's name had already won. Most tellings stop there and treat the mix-up as a joke on the past. It is not a joke. It is the whole point. The reason a room of experts looked at a mammal and saw a sea serpent is that this mammal was shaped like one. Evolution had taken a warm-blooded, air-breathing hunter and drawn it out into the outline of a sea serpent. The mistake was accurate about the shape. It was only wrong about the blood, and that shape was not decoration. A body that long, driven by its tail, moving low through warm, shallow water, was built to close on other large animals before they knew they were being hunted. Knowing what it was raises a harder question. What did it actually eat? For a long time, the honest answer was a guess. Big fish, maybe sharks. The proof, when it came, arrived in two pieces. The first was a disturbing pattern in the Egyptian beds. The Basilosaurus skeletons were adults. The Dorudon were a mix, and a suspiciously high share were juveniles, as if this had been a calving ground, a nursery. Many of those young skulls were broken the same way, deep punctures and compression cracks driven into the brain case. A 2012 study matched that damage to one set of jaws, Basilosaurus. That was suggestive. It was not proof. A scavenger can leave bite marks too. The smoking gun came from inside the killer. In 2019, researchers described a Basilosaurus skeleton with its last meals still in the gut, fish, and the bones of juvenile Dorudon. Read the two together. Bite marks on the calves' skulls, calf bones in the predator's stomach. This was not scavenging, and it was not a one-off. It was a diet. Basilosaurus was singling out the young of another whale species, crushing their skulls and swallowing them. It is some of the oldest hard evidence we have of a whale hunting another whale. The gentle-looking cousin in the same water was, to Basilosaurus, a seasonal meal. The calves came every year, and so did the hunter. We are not reading temperament off a set of teeth and guessing. We are reading the injuries on the prey, and the last meal still sitting in the hunter. Two records of the same act, written in bone. Here is the part that stayed unanswered the longest. We could see what Basilosaurus ate. We could not say how hard it bit, not as a number, until the modeling caught up. In 2015, a team led by Eric Snively built a digital model of the skull and rebuilt the jaw muscles from the scars they leave on bone. Muscle leaves a mark. It grips the bone and roughens it. So the bigger the scar, the bigger the muscle that once pulled there. They ran the forces, and the result was staggering. A bite of roughly 16,000 newtons, around 3,500 pounds at the back teeth. Put that against animals we know. A lion bites with up to about 1,000 pounds. A great white shark bites in the same range as Basilosaurus. If anything, a little harder. This was not a bite for snatching fish. It was enough to crush the skull of a young whale in one closing of the jaw. The exact injury the Egyptian skulls record. The model and the bite marks, worked out completely separately, describe the same act. 16,000 newtons. That figure invites the obvious contest. Where does it rank? Against a great white? Against a killer whale? Against everything that has ever hunted in this ocean? The honest answer is the most interesting part of the whole story. And it turns the title all the way around. Start with what the number does not do. It does not beat a great white shark. A great white bites in the same range, if anything a little harder. It does not come near Megalodon, which is in a different league entirely. If the contest is hardest bite in the history of the ocean, Basilosaurus does not win it. Here is what it does do, and this is the part almost no one says out loud. Among mammals, the warm-blooded line that includes every whale and dolphin and seal, and us, nothing has ever been estimated to bite harder. Mammals evolved jaws for control and precision, not the single crushing snap of a crocodile. That a mammal ever pushed a bite this high is the surprise. Basilosaurus still holds that record, 34 million years after the last one died. And that record says something strange about the ocean today. To find jaws that bite in its range, you have to leave the mammals behind entirely. A great white shark and a saltwater crocodile. A fish and a reptile. No living mammal comes close. Which means the naturalists of 1834 were closer than they knew. They looked at a 60-foot serpent and felt they were staring at a reptile-grade monster. They had the blood wrong. It was a mammal. They had the threat exactly right. The only things alive that match its bite are a shark and a crocodile. There is one echo of Basilosaurus still swimming, and it is not the gentle sperm whale. It is the orca, the only living whale that hunts the calves of other whales. Basilosaurus did the same thing, tens of millions of years earlier, at nearly twice the length of the largest orca alive. The bones Richard Harlan pulled from the clay were not a lizard and not a footnote. They were the hardest bite the mammal line has ever produced, wearing the shape of a sea serpent, hunting the ancestors of the whales we now put on posters and protect. We called it king lizard by mistake. The mistake was only ever about the blood. Basilosaurus was the mammal that took the ocean, but the mammals came late. Long before any whale, the sea already had a ruler, and it was a reptile. Go back to the age of the dinosaurs. One marine reptile grew to the size of a blue whale, the largest the reptile line ever produced. The strange part is how little we have of it, a creature that size, and the whole case rests on a few broken pieces of jaw. We got Basilosaurus wrong for nearly 2 centuries. We may be even more wrong about this one. How do you weigh a giant you have almost none of? That is the question the next entry opens. Tethys Codex.